With me, Kate, I gon' pull the trigger.
Baby Keem, Die For My. Is that those are my two picks for album of the year.
And the Grammy goes to.
The Grammy goes to.
And the Grammy goes to.
Family Ties, Baby Keem and Kendrick Lamar.
Keys, Baby Keem.
Ladies and gentlegrams, it's now 2026 and PG Lang's leading lyricist missed the biggest shift since his existence in hip-hop when his cousin made it to the tip-top, tackling the Toronto tough-talking toddler Taylor Swift in 2024, and more than 4 years poured since Baby Keem closed the door. Yes, he's been gone for 1,500 days, leaving people pondering on if Kendrick kept him locked away. We'll dissect the disappearance and decipher when Keem's coming back, if he even is, but first, smack the like and subscribe buttons with a big fat kiss.
I study
Rapaholics
for a living.
Now, ladies and gentlegrams, it seems like all the superstars of the 2020s who had the most potential to take it to that next level either saw an untimely demise, faced legal issues that just pushed their career back to the point of no return, or some of them just flat out fell off.
Say twin, say twin, say twin.
This is probably the worst song I heard so far.
But one name who could have ruled the scope of this generation, who makes it very difficult to pinpoint why he hasn't already, and who seemingly planned an exit route on purpose for an unknown mysterious reason, was Baby Keem. Happy New Year, ladies and gentlegrams, and happy 1578th day since the last and only proper studio solo album by Baby Keem had released. Yes, it's been 4 years since Baby Keem gave us the Melodic Blue, and during that year in 2021, it was the by far biggest release from a newcomer. The leading single Family Ties got him over 1 billion streams on Spotify, a Grammy Award. It led him to tour the world. You would think with that type of success and the climate we're in, where superstars are engineered towards TikTok attention spans, constantly keeping their name in the press to make sure their fan base does not forget, the logical thing for Keem to do would be ride off that momentum by continuing to consistently release new music and constantly evolve and elevate. I mean, he had wild success in 2021. All he had to do was simply keep that momentum going. It would be a no-brainer. Look at all his peers who joined him on the 2020 XXL freshman class cover. From Lotto to Fabio Foreign, Polo G to Lil TJ, NLE Choppa to Jack Harlow, all the most successful artists off this freshman class ended up dropping more projects than Keem had throughout his entire career. But forget about those artists, Keem was leagues beyond them. But even with the massive inflated success of the TDE and PG Lang camps, over the last 2 to 4 years since Keem's last album, really, we saw Doechie's rise to stardom, we saw Ray Vaughn's fire rookie year in 2025, Schoolboy Q dropped one of his best projects in 2024, SZA's been constantly leveling up, with her SOS album from 2022 being in the top 10 highest selling albums every single year since its release. And of course, we can't forget about Keem's cousin Kendrick, who Keem shared a kiss with.
What a hypocrite said. Spicy.
Kendrick, of course, has tapped into another level of superstardom after his Drake beef, and you'd think with Keem being signed to Kendrick's PG Lang label, Keem would not only be riding off the success of the Melodic Blue, but also riding off the success of his peers. But no, with every new event and moment from Kendrick Lamar's year-plus-long victory lap after the beef, there were constant rumors that Baby Keem would be sprinkled throughout it. People thought he would join his cousin on that Super Bowl stage.
Cap.
I want to make a move.
Refined.
I want to perform their favorite song.
With all those different guests at the pop-out concert, it was a no-brainer that Baby Keem would be there, right?
Cap.
With all of Kendrick's TDE members in the Not Like Us music video and Dave Freed directing the frickin' thing, of course Kendrick's cousin Keem would be in it, right?
Cap.
With all the different features on Kendrick's GNX album, from the up-and-comers off the West Coast to the TDE All-Star in SZA, it's a no-brainer that Baby Keem would be a feature on the project, right? So where the F is Baby Keem? While it might be hard to pinpoint an exact reason why all we've gotten from Baby Keem in the last 4 years is a deluxe album of his debut, even though he's been teasing a new project since 2023, there may be several bigger picture reasons as to why we haven't heard new music from Keem in so long. And what if I told you that La Brianna, aka Drake, might have had something to do with his disappearance? Maybe not though. You'll find out by the end of this video. But speaking of Drake,
I study rap battles for a living.
what's interesting is that before Kendrick Lamar was publicly bringing Keem on tours, doing songs with him, it was actually Drake who first co-signed Baby Keem on a public level. Kendrick, however, was mysteriously in the backgrounds. It's a really interesting story. And if you're not too familiar with it, you're probably wondering, how are Baby Keem and Kendrick Lamar related? They have their biggest song together, but it wasn't necessarily Kendrick Lamar who ushered Keem into the game or even necessarily even introduced him to music in the first place. How was it actually Drake who gave Keem his first big mainstream look before Keem's own cousin, Kendrick Lamar? How far down do Kendrick and Keem's family ties truly go? Before you had Baby Keem, you had Hakeem Jamal Carter, who was born on October 22nd, 2000. Damn, he's young. In Carson, California. About a 15-minute drive from Kendrick Lamar's childhood home. However, Keem ended up spending most of his childhood growing up in Las Vegas, Nevada. The reason for that is Keem was actually primarily raised by his grandmother. She was his main caregiver until around the age of 8 because his mother struggled with alcoholism and his father was largely absent during his upbringing. On the title track of the Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers album, Kendrick actually raps, "Watching my cousin struggle with addiction, then watching her firstborn make $1 million."
I was at Uncle Crib at 14, can't get through to mama cause she rather drink.
Now, forget about Kendrick Lamar for a second because I don't think I spoke to you guys about what else has been going on in 2026. It's the new year, so we gotta find some new ways to make money, and a bunch of you guys told me last year I put you onto some of the easiest side hustles, and I promise you, I have the best one yet for you right now. Tester Up. And no, this is not about any boring tests. See, a lot of mobile games need new users to test how good their apps are and how well they work. And Tester Up is an app that pays you real cash just for testing different apps and playing games on your phone. And it's so easy to get started and earn money. You just download the Tester Up app by scanning the QR code you see on the screen or clicking the link in the description of this video. Then you make an account using your email or your phone number. It's super quick. You'll get a free $5 welcome bonus just for signing up as well. And then boom, you look through the available tasks, you pick one, and you start getting paid to play games. Some tasks are about testing brand new apps, others are about playing games and hitting certain levels, but ultimately Tester is the best because they make the instructions super clear, so you'll know exactly what you need to do to get paid. So if you want to start earning money today, scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description of this video, download Tester Up, sign up, and let's start making some money. Even without Kendrick really in the picture, at a very young age, Keem was always surrounded by music thanks to his aunts and uncles. They were also recording artists. They brought him in studios. Keem remembers spending a lot of his early childhood in studios and observing the process of making music rather than actually participating. At around 6 years old, he recalls watching family members use FL Studio, and they were encouraging Keem to jump in from the sidelines from a very early age, asking him to freestyle while he was in the studio, putting him on to one of the greatest wonders of a child in the early 2000s, burning CDs from illegally downloaded LimeWire music. It was these early moments and memories that sprinkled the thoughts into Keem's head that maybe music is something he wants to take seriously as a career.
When I was 4 years old, I was in studios with like my auntie. Like I look at my auntie kind of more of like a big sister to me. So, you know, my auntie and my uncles, and they was all like, you know, in their 20s, and I'm following them around 4 years old, like just to get out the house. They in the studio to 4 a.m. They was probably making, I don't know what they were making, but I didn't even know where I really was. You know, I look back on that now and I'm like, okay, so they always burning CDs. I just been around that, just burning LimeWire days.
Now, of course, at the rough age of 6, you're not doing too much independent thinking in terms of how you would want to structure your own artistic identity. Around that age, you're likely just consuming whatever's within the confines of your surroundings, right? You hear music while you walk down the street. If you're like 20 years old or older, you likely heard it a lot on the radio, maybe your classmates, family members, whatever. In Keem's case, similar to me, and I'm sure a lot of babies who were born anywhere from like 96 to 2000, you grew up hearing 50 Cent, Kanye West, Eminem, and Lil Wayne all over the radio, right? Baby Keem says the thing that really kind of lit the switch, that truly inspired him at a very young age, was at around 9 years old, he was hearing a lot of music from Kanye West's Graduation album on the radio. Hits like Stronger, Good Life, Can't Tell Me Nothing, etc. So without knowing anything else about Kanye except for these hits that were playing on the radio, he wanted to discover more. So he looked up Kanye West online, and that's when he came across 808s and Heartbreak.
I didn't know what it was at the time because I was like, but hearing Graduation like on the radio all the time and being like, okay, like I'm getting tired of these songs now. Like, sheesh, let me go find something myself. Like, who's that one dude that make that song? And I ended up finding 808s. And I'm like, this reminds me of like the winter time. Like this is the best winter ever. I think it had snowed like in Vegas, which is like, it's the desert out there. It don't really snow. So I'm like, this is crazy. It's like the soundtrack to what's going on right now.
As far as the core artists that really shaped Keem's artistic identity, aside from, 808's era Kanye West, Keem also attributes a lot of Kid Cudi, Lil Wayne, Eminem for his storytelling skills, SoundCloud era Lil Uzi, even Drake's work ethic, the hunger that he has to stay where he's at in the game, and 50 Cent for his hit-making abilities.
When I was like 9 years old, I just started researching myself. I would say like Kanye West, like 808s, a lot of Lil Wayne at the time. I think those were like the first two artists, especially Lil Wayne. Eminem was one of my favorite artists too. 50 Cent, I just remember being in the car, 5 years old, just like take you to the candy. Like that was, I think those four artists right there were essential to me discovering what music was.
Also on the record saying that Cudi is one of the people that influenced you. Who else influenced you?
Lil Wayne, for sure. Eminem and his storytelling, the way he could just embody a character on the song and change his flow so many times. Even some of the artists that have come out when I was in high school, seeing like Uzi, all those guys do what they did in the SoundCloud times. And tough Drake, for sure. Drake's one of those guys. Just his work ethic and his hunger to keep, staying where he is. It's just like, I just take from all these sources of people, take whatever they experience and turn it into my own knowledge.
Now remember, Keem spent a large portion of his childhood in Vegas. There's not a big musical presence in Vegas compared to LA, which of course is where he was born and where his cousin Kendrick had built his music career. But that winter, it had been raining and snowing in Vegas, and the gloomy weather coupled with the discovery of Kanye West's 808s and Heartbreak left a major impact on Keem's childhood and started kicking off his creative inspiration. A couple years later, by around the age of 13, Keem began experimenting with music on his own, using very basic software on his computer. Remember, at the age of like 6, he was watching his aunts and uncles use FL Studio, so it's only right that he tried his hand at producing as well.
I seen FL Studio being used in like 07. Like they doing this as like a fun thing. They got their jobs on the side, my family. And I'm like seeing it and it's like they want me to get involved, I was always scared. Like I'm like, okay, I'm scared. I'm only 6 years old. Like I don't know, like, what do you mean freestyle? Like what is that? I'm not doing that. Like y'all gonna say I suck. Like just from there, that little peak, and it's just like, I want to do it. I want to do it today. Like I think I want to rap in front of them, and I'm like, nah. I was familiar with FL Studio from like 9 years old. I just didn't start using it until I was like, like 14. I think when I was like 14 years old is when I really like, okay, I want to make music. Like I want to really do this.
Keem had said in an interview, when I really started, I was 13 and I had Apple Studio on my computer. I borrowed $300 from my grandma and I got stuff on Craigslist. I was probably 15 years old. I got a mic for $50. It was crap, but it worked. So this is where Keem starts laying the groundwork for the production style that he would later become known for, teaching himself production and songwriting without any formal training. The thing is, no matter how many hours of practice you put in, no matter how good your skills become, there is one thing that might stop you that you have no control over, and that is Mother Nature. And that's what Baby Keem would face. He was going through puberty around this time, and while he was taking music somewhat serious, his voice was still so high-pitched as this early teenager that he didn't fully feel comfortable actually rapping his own verses yet, so he started off by just writing and producing. Around this same time, Keem is gaming very heavily, and he would make a couple friends through video games. They also rapped, so Keem would end up collaborating with them, and this is where he started forming the confidence to actually spit on his own.
Didn't feel your voice was deep enough.
Yeah, I'll be on the game with my friends, just talking, yapping with my squeaky little voice, like, I'll be on the game and we be rapping and shit. And some of my homies ended up actually recording a song. Process of just doing that, we would just work kind of together. We were just like, oh, what are you working on? We'd be on FaceTime, like, what are you working on? Oh, I'm working on this, like that. So it just became that every single day, and then before you know it, I've got good at
But it wasn't just fire bars that a 14-year-old baby Keem was producing with his video game friends. See, he was actually a pretty solid gamer, leaning heavily into Minecraft, and during this time period where he's just forming his rapping skills, he's also spending a lot of time streaming his Minecraft and FIFA gameplay online. In the early 2010s, Keem actually became a pretty decently known YouTuber in the Minecraft space, with his in-game name being HakeemC and his YouTube account being named Almighty Mods, which he renamed to Your Plug in around 2023.
And I was just about to say my intro again. Alright, so we're here with our new partner, Jason. Say hello, Jason.
Hola.
And his...
Hola, señor.
Yo! Check out my song, Baby Keem.
Baby Keem. Keemstar?
He had a couple thousand subs on his channel. He would hold Skype calls where his fans were actually able to play along with him. But sadly, the channel is now inactive. Oh, and by the way, guys, remember how one of the bigger rebuttals on Drake's Family Matters diss record to Kendrick Lamar was that Kendrick's music is only hitting hard when, quote-unquote, Baby Keem puts his pen to it? Yeah, well, the years we're talking about here where Baby Keem was heavy on the Minecraft and just barely getting into learning how to actually write raps, Kendrick Lamar at this point already has Section 80, Good Kid Mad City, and To Pimp a Butterfly under his belt. With Section 80 and Good Kid being such good albums that they had Drake begging his label to let him take Kendrick Lamar on his tour. For him to now say Kendrick's music only hits when Baby Keem writes it, when Baby Keem was 14 with a Minecraft channel at this time, is absolutely hilarious. And also just factually impossible because Baby Lamar and Kendrick Keem were actually not even close back then. Huh? I mean, obviously just proximity-wise, logically, Kendrick at this point is focused on becoming a massive rapper, and Keem lives in a completely different city. Also being 12 years younger than Kendrick, they obviously barely saw each other, right? And as you can see, which will play an important role in the story shortly, it wasn't actually Kendrick Lamar who got Baby Keem into music. It was these gamer friends that he was playing Minecraft with. It was Kanye West, Keem hearing him all over the radio, and it was his aunts and uncles who brought Keem to the studio. But don't get it confused, Kendrick Lamar most definitely had a heavy involvement in Keem's career, but that only came a couple years later. Again, they lost touch initially due to growing up in different states. Kendrick became a star when Keem was just starting to experiment more with music, and they would reconnect, according to Keem, due to an unfortunate event that occurred within their family. In an interview, he was asked, had you and Kendrick lost touch? And Keem said, I was just a kid. Honestly, I wouldn't even say we lost touch. The last time I saw him, I was probably 5 or something. Keem didn't even know for most of his early life that Kendrick made music. He only discovered that after Kendrick put out Overly Dedicated in 2010. Again, this is around the same time when Keem just discovered Kanye's 808s and Heartbreak, and he was just 10 years old when Kendrick put out Overly Dedicated. For most of my childhood, I didn't see Kendrick, Baby Keem had said. Something unfortunate happened in my family, and we kind of connected through that. I wasn't really making music like that. Later on, I finally sent him a song.
You guys lost touch? What had happened exactly?
I was a kid, honestly. I wouldn't even say lost touch. I was just last time I seen him, I was probably really young, probably 5 or something. I was just a kid. I had started making music when I was 14, right? And then I didn't see him. It was an unfortunate situation that happened in my family. I guess we kind of just connected through that.
When Keem first started making music, he was very hesitant to send Kendrick Lamar any of his tracks because he felt like everyone probably sent Kendrick music, and Keem wasn't even taking music very seriously at the time. So it was almost disrespectful to send something that was kind of so half-baked or premature. But eventually he did decide to send Kendrick music, and the first thing he sent to Kendrick loved it. He loved the melodies. So Keem decided to wait a while get a lot better, and then only once he did get better, send Kendrick more music. And initially, Kendrick told Keem not to put out any of these tracks that he was sending K-Dot because he probably thought Keem should take the time to actually develop as an artist before presenting his sound to the world. Keem had the rough elements that were there for sure with the melodies, but you want to perfect your craft before you make your big presentation to the world. But ultimately, Keem didn't listen and posted his music on SoundCloud.
I wasn't really making music to the point where I would be like, yo, like, he didn't really even know until like later. I finally just like sent him a song and it was just like, oh, he's like, oh shit. Like, he heard something and I guess he's like, I'm gonna play this for everybody in the studio. And I'm like, all right, for sure. And then I was like, all right, I'm gonna wait. I'm not gonna send him no more music. I'm gonna wait and get better again. And then we'll come back later and then I'll send him music again. And then, so I wasn't sending him music for a minute.
It sounds like you were a little hesitant at first to even reach out and send him music.
Yeah, because I figured like, I'm like, everybody does that. Like, yeah, I knew from a young age, like, I'm not trying to do what everybody does.
Now back then, Keem wasn't telling anybody that Kendrick Lamar was his cousin when he was dropping music, but there were little hints, which we'll touch on shortly. I do think it's interesting though, because eventually people would call Keem an industry plant, same way they now call Doechii an industry plant, even though we never actually saw Keem and Kendrick stand next to each other until Keem had already established his name on his own.
If I wasn't ready to like do what I'm doing now, then it wouldn't be happening. Like I wouldn't even ask for anything. Like I didn't send him my music until later, you know? So for me personally, I just want like plenty of other people that come from my family too that do music, but I don't know why their process never.
Now, although the world didn't know that Baby Keem and Kendrick were cousins initially, you can most definitely tell that Baby Keem was taking heavy inspiration from his cousin's music. But what's crazy is, off his first few releases, you would think that Keem was actually related to Travis Scott or Kid Cudi before Kendrick Lamar. And the irony in that is that obviously Travis Scott and Kid Cudi would not exist without Kanye West's 808s and Heartbreak, and that was the one album that Keem said literally lit the match in his head to start pursuing music. So it was around 2017, 2018, when Keem was around 16 to 18 years old, that he started putting out his first major few releases. The first one was an EP released on November 7th, 2017, titled Oct. And it was released under his actual birth name, not the name Baby Keem yet. This is around the time when obviously Baby Keem and Kendrick Lamar start working heavily together, and Kendrick starts putting Keem in the right rooms. This picture is from anywhere around like end of 2017 to 2018, where it seems like Keem is cooking up a beat, working with Kendrick in the studio, and we know obviously that this is late 2017 because he's wearing a Damn shirt, which is the Kendrick album that came out in around middle 2017. By the beginning of 2018, Keem puts out his second project, Midnight, and it's here where he makes his first reference to Kendrick Lamar. On the intro track, Black, he raps, "The whole time I'm telling her I'm that guy, I bust up, I feel like I'm P. Diddy, F with me, K-Dot, come pull the trigger."
I bust up, I feel it's like I'm P. Diddy, F with me, K-Dot, come pull the trigger.
Labels, and they're not effing with me. Remember when they wasn't effing with me? Say Keem gon' kill this stuff. Basically, it's here where he's telling Kendrick, hey, like, I'm ready, it's my turn, like, pull the trigger on me, come on, let's go.
I know God got me living with no feelings, that's a course.
And I mean, you could hear the Travis Scott inspiration in Keem's voice at this point, right? Keep in mind, Keem is only around 17 when he releases this project, his second project. And he sounds virtually nothing like the artist he would become. I mean, if I had to chalk it up to anything, I would say he's a Travis Scott clone, and I don't say that in a bad way per se. These songs are pretty good. Really, they're amazing if we're factoring in the fact that he's 17 around this time. But I mean, everything from the psychedelic, dark, melodic trap production on this project to the deeper vocal inflections Keem's using, the way he's stretching out his voice mixed with the auto-tune, I mean, this has Travis Scott written all over it.
I can never ever fall in love with a bird.
I personally like this project. I mean, if you guys are fans of like 2016 to 2018 SoundCloud rap era, this is definitely worth a listen, but Keem might not think so because he actually later on described this project, Midnight, as just quote-unquote 9 songs in my stash, and basically just said it lacked direction. But aside from this tape, 2018 would be a formative year for Baby Keem. This is again when him and Kendrick start working together in a public capacity, I guess you could say, meaning that like some of the work Keem was doing with Kendrick was actually now getting released to the public, except Keem wasn't rapping yet on any Kendrick-related projects, but instead he was producing. Still, again, not credited as Baby Keem, but instead under his government name, Keem Carter, he earned several production credits throughout 2018 and 2019 on stuff like the Black Panther soundtrack, which Kendrick Lamar executive produced. He also produced for Schoolboy Q's album Crash Talk in 2019, including the single Num Num Juice. He had some production work on J-Rock's Redemption album in 2018, and even Beyonce's Lion King soundtrack in 2019. And aside from that one bar on the song Black in 2018, where he rapped that Kendrick should pull the trigger on him, we still have not heard any other mention from neither Keem nor Kendrick of them being related to each other. But best believe Kendrick's presence was felt all throughout Keem's come-up, just behind the scenes. See, as the years would progress, we would get to hear over 10 Kendrick Lamar reference tracks for Baby Keem songs, 4 reference tracks for his October 2018 project The Sound of Bad Habit, 5 more reference tracks for his 2019 project Die For My B, and 3 reference tracks for his PG Lang debut album The Melodic Blue. Kendrick wrote on, or at the very least recorded, reference tracks for various Baby Keem tracks like Bullies, 16, my personal favorite Stats, Rockstar P, Bust Her Up, Not My Bro, and a lot more.
Walking my noses in the road and they best I pivot dogs popping my toe with my third right popping the bud with my nose got it dead like.
But that doesn't mean Keem was pulling a La Brianna and just having a bunch of ghostwriters in the booth constantly concocting music for him, right? It wasn't just that Kendrick was writing this guy's entire life story. Again, he wasn't around for a lot of Keem's early childhood years, and that's what Keem raps about on a lot of his music. His mother struggles, growing up with his grandmother, his love interests. I mean, remember back in early 2018, Keem hadn't fully found his own identity yet, right? A lot of his music sounded like Travis Scott. Well, a big thing that kind of elevated his sound and really took his career to the next level was making the change in his own songwriting as he matured as a human and realized that in order to really find himself in the music, he's got to get more vulnerable.
I learned that you have to be vulnerable in music. That's the only way people are going to gravitate towards what you're saying. If I want to write a song like Honest and I want to have people in the crowd singing back to me, like it has to stem from a vulnerable perspective. I just have to find whatever makes me vulnerable in the moment, how to get over that shyness of expressing that.
So this is where you get Keem's breakout moment. At the age of just 19, he released what I believe to be his 5th official project. With the world having barely ever saw his face, they now knew his story. With this breakout mixtape, Die For My B. To me, this project was perfectly designed and packaged for Gen Z, the ADHD mind. I honestly didn't understand it at first because at the time I wasn't really into the, more alternative hip hop like the Brockhamptons and the Tyler the Creators. I also didn't care for the direction that trap music was headed in, like Playboi Carti, Lil Uzi, and I think Baby Keem kind of meshed those two worlds together. I mean, he replaced his Travis Scott or Kid Cudi inspired auto-crooning for a lot more choppier flows and voices, similar to Playboi Carti introducing his own baby voice, that like higher pitched cartoony voice. His vision seems a lot more focused on this project, with the flows being extremely bouncy and experimental, but still meshing very well with the production. His sound is all over the place, again going from trap to alternative music like a Tame Impala or even Tyler the Creator to an extent. And the project produced his breakout hit in Orange Soda. It's also worth noting that if this album went platinum, then Baby Keem would join J. Cole in being one of the only rappers to go platinum with no features, because Die For My B, the project, it had no features. But one of Keem's dream collaborators, Drake, had actually fallen in love with the project. In fact, he had said that this, along with Young Thug's So Much Fun, were 2 of his favorite albums from 2019.
I think Thug had the best album of the year. Yeah, actually, between him and Baby Keem, Die For My, is that those are my 2 picks for album of the year.
Similar to how when Drake first heard Section 80 by Kendrick Lamar and immediately reached out to him, he did the same thing with Baby Keem after hearing Die For My B. Keem said around that time, Drake's tapped in, as he should be. Soon as Die For My B came out, he reached out. And at the time, you have to remember, this cosign is massive because A, again, no one knows that Keem and Kendrick are cousins. 2, Baby Keem is not really showing his face. I mean, his face is not on the album cover of any of his mixtapes, so it's like you don't really even know what this guy looks like. You just hear this mysterious, bouncy, innovative hip-hop music from this guy whose name is Baby Keem. And all of a sudden, you know, one of the biggest rappers in the world is saying that he put out his favorite project this year. And looking back on it, I mean, the same way that Drake is, you know, very tapped into a lot of up-and-comers and then usually ends up collaborating with them so then he can integrate their sound into his own music, I'm assuming that's probably what he wanted to do with Keem's music, right? Because if you look at songs like Honest, I mean, imagine Drake singing that song. That song would be a massive hit. Keem's sound would have definitely helped elevate Drake's sound, which was kind of seeing a slump back in 2019, 2020, right? We'll get to that shortly, but regardless, this cosign most definitely helped put a brand new set of eyeballs onto Baby Keem, and with that, he kept the momentum rolling by starting the new decade off on March 5th, 2020, being the first artist signed to Kendrick Lamar and Dave Free's brand new company, PG Lang, with Baby Keem himself appearing in the company's debut mission statement video.
Tell you what you can't do.
Some shit for the critics, some shit for the crowd. Do you have the tools? PG Lang.
Keem emphasized that for a while he wanted to go platinum with no features with Die For My B. He wanted to do all these little mixtapes before even standing next to Kendrick Lamar because he wanted to make his introduction into the game on his own. He wanted people to remember him for him. He wanted them to show up at his shows for him, not for Kendrick, not for that Drake cosign, not because he sounded like Travis or Kid Cudi or he tapped into that 808s and Heartbreak sound. Keem wanted the world to remember Keem for Keem.
It was like going back to the whole like get it on my own situation. Like I wanted a situation that where the people that listen to me are listening to me for me, and even a situation where it's hard for them to accept me working with other people, like which is what we have now. Like going on, it's like you know they like Keem, and that was important for me to build that foundation.
And when asked what makes him great, he said ultimately it's because of his mentality. The mentality he carries is that all he needs to do is just outwork everybody else. But sadly, just like a squeaky, puberty-stricken voice stopping a young 14-year-old Baby Keem from being able to record his raps, an unprecedented external force would also stop a 20-year-old Baby Keem from finally releasing his debut album to the world in 2020. He was supposed to release his first album in that year. I mean, he had the freshman class, he announced he was signed to PG Lang, he got the Drake cosign, Die For My B, the mixtape was blowing up. It was the perfect time for Keem to start this new decade being the next superstar up. But Mother Nature again had different plans, and it was all pushed back, but probably for good reason.
Like we would have come out in 2020 if everything was open, but then shut down.
Yeah, dude.
Right. How did you deal with that?
I took it hard at first. I took it real hard because it was like this would happen to me, like me, and it was like that for a good month until I realized I'm like, bro, music aside, bro, like what's going on outside, like I'm actually blessed to be in my position.
See, another artist around this time who faced multiple album pushbacks due to the COVID-19 pandemic was none other than Drake, who just a year before, in an interview in promotion of his new project CLB, had co-signed Baby Keem. That project CLB was now getting pushed back, but it gave Drake the perfect opportunity to now try and incorporate Baby Keem's sound into his new music. And we saw Drake embracing a lot of artists from the next generation on this little rollout here. I mean, he had Laugh Now, Cry Later with Lil Durk in 2020. He had Wants and Needs with Lil Baby. He had just did a collab with Fabio Foreign. He just did his first collab, Pain 1993, with Playboi Carti. And he actually had a second collab with Playboi Carti, which would also feature Baby Keem on a song called What's Next.
I told you that I was a mess, okay? I get out of bed and get dressed, okay?
Now, you probably recognize this song for not actually having a Baby Keem verse, but instead for being a solo Drake verse. And as far as why that happened, and why Baby Keem and Playboi Carti were left off, well, we could only speculate. Don't forget, Baby Keem signed to PG Lang, or announced the signing, in March of 2020, and this What's Next song officially came out in around January of 2021. I can only imagine that Keem and Drake ended up collaborating on this song after he had already signed to PG Lang. So I don't think Drake took Baby Keem off because he was like, nah, I didn't know Keem and Kendrick were cousins. Now that I know, I want nothing to do with this guy. But Keem chalked it up to ultimately this just being part of Drake's creative process. I mean, when he was asked about it in an interview before the Melodic Blue came out, he said, this is just his process. If we don't work now, we'll work later.
That you and Carti were supposed to be on What's Next, or whatever happened with that.
I don't know. That's just his process. I look at it like we don't work now, then we work later. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially with someone like Drake. You know what I mean? Like, that's his process. I can't hate on another man's process. Like,
as far as how they even got in touch, apparently when Baby Keem dropped Die For My B, Drake ended up reaching out to him by just sending a bunch of emojis.
Spicy.
But while Baby Keem wouldn't get that Drake collaboration in 2021, he would get something that is probably much bigger and better. After all the years of honing in on his craft, he finally felt confident to go bar for bar with his cousin, Kendrick Lamar, on record. This track is crazy, and I mean, let me know what you guys think in the comments, but honestly, I like Baby Keem's part more than Kendrick's on this song. I think it's just the energy that Keem brings, plus the fact that, you know, there's a beat switch in the middle. Kendrick raps on the second beat, but the first beat that Keem is on is a lot more triumphant and energetic and just memorable overall. I mean, I think that's why now on Kendrick's GNX tour, he's even rapping a separate verse to that first beat. But yeah, this was an insane moment, right? I mean, this was the first time where they finally acknowledged that they're actually related. The album artwork for Family Ties even featured a picture of both Kendrick Lamar and Baby Keem from way early on. Keem had to be like 4 years old in this picture. And as you can see, like all the other relatives' eyes are blanked out with a black square, similar to how they were on Kendrick's Good Kid, Mad City cover. And I mean, I think this song pretty much eliminated all chances of Baby Keem and Drake ever having a collaboration together. A big portion of the Kendrick Lamar and Drake sneak disses that were going on for damn near 10 years ever since Kendrick dropped Control were alluding to the fact that both of them were fighting for that, you know, top one crown, right? Like, there were multiple bars where Drake at one point is calling himself top 5 of all time, then he's calling himself top 2 and he's not 2. And here Kendrick Lamar pretty much puts it all to rest by saying he's smoking on your top 5 tonight, right? But Baby Keem also takes a little jab at number 2, which if you're paying attention you realize that would be Drake, right? I mean, he's on record and related to the guy who is calling himself top 1, battling for the other guy to be top 1. So Keem here is obviously implying Drake is number 2, and number 2 is DMing Baby Keem's girl.
Spicy.
Could this be why we never got that What's Next collaboration between Drake and Baby Keem in early 2021? If you guys don't think that's enough proof to show that Drake might have stolen one of Baby Keem's girls, he later in 2022 released the deluxe to the Melodic Blue, and on a song called Lost Souls with Brent Faiyaz, he rapped, "It's a lot of HOES's in here, lots of lost souls, whole group of dime B's and they in vogue. Trying to find me a girl that nobody knows. I'm trying to find me a girl that nobody knows. You see that girl right there? She effed OVO."
I'm trying to find me a that no one knows. You see that right there? She OVO.
But this whole Drake thing, this really wouldn't be an issue for now. In the meantime, Family Ties and the Melodic Blue would really send Baby Keem out of here. It would cement him as this expressive, creative trap artist who never feels monotone or lazy, is never conformed into a box, has high energy flows and writing that swings between funny, emotional, autobiographical, and the Melodic Blue is really his most all-encompassing statement thus far. Versatile, highly personality driven. On one side, it was built around that distinctive high-pitched baby voice that's perfect for jokes, boasts, sudden mood flips, very reminiscent to Kendrick's more comical or animated styles that you see him perform on songs like King's Dead or Element or Silent Hill or Untitled 2. Like, when Kendrick's more in that kind of animated bag, I think that directly influenced this Baby Keem baby voice, like choppy start, stop type of flow that he has going on.
I made 500,000, I freaked it. You see that right there? She OVO.
But then on the flip side, you also have Keem take on this more alternative, softer role on songs like 16 or on my favorite, the song Scars, where he is completely embodying that first album, the essence of that first album that truly got him into music. 808s and Heartbreak. Only this time, unlike his, best Travis Scott and Kid Cudi impressions back on his 2018 projects, by 2021, while you definitely hear the Kanye influence, whether it's directly through the drums on Scars that were taken from Kanye West's Love Lockdown, or whether it's the hook or just the vocals in general, you still get the vibe that this is a Baby Keem story. This isn't Kanye's record. However, I remember a couple years ago, there was actually an AI version of this song, and I literally thought this was like a Kanye West leftover off 808s and Heartbreak. And I remember, aside from a couple songs, not necessarily being all the way invested into Baby Keem at that point, but when I heard this, I was like, wow, this is the best written song that sounds like it belongs on 808s and Heartbreak that I've ever heard. And keep in mind, 808s and Heartbreak inspired an entire generation from Lil Uzi to Travis to Drake to Kid Cudi himself. I mean, this one song, even when you slap Kanye AI vocals on it, sounds like it'd be one of the better songs off 808s. Just to kind of show you guys how strong Baby Keem's pen and songwriting abilities have gotten by this point in time in the story.
What is life you get so long? Why all the choices that I make tear us apart?
The success that the Melodic Blue carried led Baby Keem to reach higher and higher heights as the next 12 months progressed. First, he gets a feature on the most successful song off of Kanye West's Donda album, Praise God with Travis Scott. Then, he becomes one of the pillars of Kendrick Lamar's long-anticipated fifth or fourth studio album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, where Baby Keem is used as a device alongside Kodak Black, or in contrast of him, to kind of show the audience what happens when you grow up making the right choices throughout your upbringing. To me, Baby Keem was really a standout on this project. To this day, Savior Interlude and the song Savior off that album are two of my favorite cuts. Definitely off the project, definitely from Baby Keem's entire catalog, but maybe even from Kendrick's catalog himself. CC, wait a minute, Ben Aki. I speak French, I still don't understand what he was saying in this verse, but it slaps, it definitely slaps. And with the success of Mr. Morale, Kendrick would bring Baby Keem on tour with him for the Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers tour, which Drake would actually make a surprise appearance at the Toronto stop. By the next year in 2023, Kendrick Lamar and Baby Keem were so tight that they even teased a collaboration project together, forming a new supergroup, which was called the Hillbillies. And there was a bunch of theories going around at this time that Kendrick Lamar, with all the different reference tracks that were leaking from him to Baby Keem, they were saying that he was kind of using his cousin as an experiment project where, he wanted to get all these flows off, these more animated, cartoony, more laissez-faire, if you want me to speak French, more of these chilled out flows where he's not really rapping too deep, but he's kind of just having fun with things. He kind of expresses that through Baby Keem. That was the theory, and that Baby Keem was just this social experiment for Kendrick to get off this more kind of carefree persona within the music. And that's why, again, earlier in this video, I said a lot of the flows, the choppy baby style voices that Keem integrates, in my opinion, it's very reminiscent to a lot of the more animated flows and voices that Kendrick Lamar has used on records like King's Dead or Untitled 2 or various other songs. With Kendrick's actual albums usually having a very tight-knit focus, maybe he was kind of, collaborating with Keem to get off the more carefree vibes that he wanted to send off. And maybe that's what this Hillbillies project would have formed into becoming. I guess we'll never know, but the first single that they put out for this actually fit that vibe, right? It was actually ironically titled A Sticky Dub. If you guys don't know, a year prior to this, Drake, on Kendrick Lamar's birthday, released an album called Honestly Nevermind, where he had a song called Sticky. And the Hillbillies, Baby Keem and Kendrick, a year later, put out their quote-unquote Sticky Dub. It was a kind of remix to Sticky, I guess. They were using the same flows. The beat was kind of similar to Drake's Sticky song. And at the time, without knowing what Kendrick would do a year later, many people didn't know if this was a troll or them paying homage or whatever the hell this was. No one knew. And guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the last song that we have ever heard from Baby Keem, almost 3 years ago at this point. almost 5 years removed from his debut last album that we've gotten from him. We got one ad-lib from him on Tyler, the Creator's new album Chromacopia, where he says, huh. But it was at this point in 2023 where, Baby Keem would have been perfect and poised to be the next guy running and leading this generation. A lot of the superstars of the 2010s started rapping or gaining traction in around 2007 to 2009, right? And then from 2010 to 2020, they went on to dominate. You had Future, Drake, Kendrick, J. Cole, etc. It was similar with the 2020s, except very few artists ended up lasting. I mean, in the late 2010s, you had the new generation being ushered in, right? XXX, Juice WRLD, Lil Baby, DaBaby, Roddy Ricch, Pop Smoke, NBA Youngboy, Playboi Carti. I'm probably missing a bunch of names, but aside from NBA Youngboy and Playboi Carti, on a real global level, who from the late 2010s ended up leading the next decade as, this highly influential, larger-than-life superstar to take rap to a new level or a new direction? I think this would have been the perfect lane for Baby Keem to cover. I mean, you have Playboi Carti, who covers more of the, edgy, niche, cult fan bases, right, that love that rage sound. You got NBA Youngboy, who isn't necessarily, making global pop smashes. He's catering more to like street rap, younger fans. I'm talking about who can take things to a higher level, similar to a Kendrick, a Drake, a J. Cole. I mean, if you look at Baby Keem, the subject matter in his music is relatable to the everyday person. And that means his music can really appeal to the widest possible audience of all his contemporaries who came up at the same time that Keem did. Very similar to what Tyler, the Creator's kind of doing right now, right? Similar to Playboi Carti, Tyler, the Creator early on also had a very niche, edgy fan base, right? But then he started talking about love and life and family and emotions and relationships and all that stuff. And I mean, that's when we saw his music reach a much wider audience. Baby Keem covers the same ground. And just like Tyler, the Creator, he also produces a lot of his own music or works very closely with a small handful of producers, right? His sound is still quirky and experimental. It still tickles your ear, but it also sounds anthemic, sounds like something that can appeal again to a wider audience. I mean, I'm saying this with firsthand experience. I saw Kendrick Lamar and Baby Keem both perform at a festival, I want to say it was 2 years ago now, 2023, when they were on their big tour run together. Baby Keem basically opened up for Kendrick at this festival, but I mean, Baby Keem had, I would argue, almost as loud of a crowd. Not as big of a crowd, but as loud of a crowd, which kind of indicates that he had that younger generation in the palm of his hands, right? Because the younger kids are the ones mosh pitting and yelling in the crowd. The older audience, which Kendrick probably attracted, were more calm, just kind of enjoying the music, actually listening to what he was saying. The kids were going crazy. I mean, I could vouch for that. That was one of the crazier crowds of that entire festival that night that Baby Keem had. And I think he would have been the one out of, that entire generation. Again, the XXX Juice WRLD, who unfortunately lost their life before they could fully blossom into what they would have became. Same with Pop Smoke. Then you had Roddy Ricch, DaBaby, Lil Baby, who just kind of missed the potential that people thought they maybe had. It would have been Baby Keem, man. I mean, that first album he put out in 2021 was massive. If he kept going, things would have went to another level. And for a while, in around 2023, he was teasing that he was going to keep going. He announced a brand new project titled Child with Wolves that was supposed to be his second album that was supposed to make its way to the world in 2024 or 2025. So what happened exactly with Child with Wolves, and why have we not heard Baby Keem music in 3+ years? Well, again, his second album, Child with Wolves, was teased in Instagram texts in around January 2024, along with different mock-ups of what could potentially be the cover art for the project. But you guys probably know what happened just about a month and a half after that, right?
I study rap battles for a living.
During the beef between Kendrick and Drake, Baby Keem was radio silent. The only thing he did was actually like a tweet that basically said Kendrick Lamar is the type of guy to vanish as the bus passes. But that was already a year ago. The last time we heard from Baby Keem was on Twitter, also over a year ago, when he tweeted, "What's new?" But what if there's a deeper reason why Baby Keem has not released music in the last 3 years? There really might be.
Spicy.
And it might stem back to that Kendrick and Drake beef, but not for reasons you guys might think. Now, shout out to the YouTube channel Geek About It for bringing this theory to light. I'm going to try to remember to leave a link in the description to their channel in this video, but I highly suggest you guys check out their channel. They do amazing videos and phenomenal research on everything hip-hop related, and they really unpack something that makes a lot of sense as to why we've seen so many delays in Baby Keem's project. So basically, I mean, you guys might have assumed, oh, Baby Keem was just silent so that Kendrick Lamar can have his moment, have his victory lap, right? Well, Kendrick Lamar has most definitely finished that victory lap. We can confirm that, right? Like, he dropped GNX again over a year ago. He went on the entire GNX tour, which wrapped up in December, which is approaching 2 months ago. I also don't think Baby Keem rolling out an album while Kendrick Lamar was on that GNX tour would interfere with the success of that tour in any capacity, right? And Baby Keem actually made an appearance at one of the dates. That was the first time we had saw him in many years when he stepped on stage again with Kendrick Lamar, I believe in around May of 2025. But ultimately, we hadn't heard new Baby Keem music, and it didn't make sense that the only reason why we hadn't heard Keem music is because, you know, he wanted to step out of the spotlight for Kendrick. Sure, in 2024, that excuse makes sense, but by 2025, not really. If anything, Kendrick Lamar bringing Baby Keem along for the ride, these massive moments like the Super Bowl or the pop-out, that would have brought more eyeballs onto Baby Keem. It would have been a better look for the both of them. But whatever, there's a bigger reason, all right? So keep in mind that Baby Keem was working quite heavily with Kendrick on his Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers album, but another individual who was working on that album pretty heavily was Boy Wonder, Drake's right-hand producer, who was actually a big fan of Kendrick Lamar before the beef popped off.
You know, To Pimp a Butterfly, I think you tweeted or said in an interview that it was a dream come true to be on that project. Why in particular?
It was a dream come true because Kendrick is literally one of my favorite artists. So just to work with him and be a part of anything he was doing was a pleasure and was an honor.
But what's interesting here, and again, shout out to Geek About It for bringing this to light, is that Boy Wonder had actually brought in the studio with him a new producer that he signed named Janu. And Janu, sorry for mispronouncing his name, he had contributed production work on Kendrick's song N95, one of the singles off Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. Around this time, he starts forming a close friendship with Baby Keem. And again, he's signed to Boy Wonder, right? Janu eventually is invited to join Kendrick's Big Steppers tour, specifically to help Baby Keem work on his new project. Throughout the tour, Baby Keem had frequently tweeted about recording songs late at night on the tour bus and often mentioned Scott Bridgway and Janu. You could tell they were definitely locked in on a creative process. But then the beef happens, right? And even though Boy Wonder was a fan of Kendrick, was happy to work with him in the past, obviously at this point, we're in a different circumstance. And Boy Wonder can be seen all across the timelines taking shots at Kendrick Lamar. Now, this directly impacts Baby Keem. Why? Because, again, Janu, who ended up becoming one of Baby Keem's closest collaborators over the last few years, is now caught in the middle of this entire thing. Ultimately, his loyalty lies with Boy Wonder, whose loyalty lies with Drake, right? Baby Keem has tons of music with both of them. I mean, he even put out a short film that was tied to the Melodic Blue, where he previewed 3 new songs, and 2 of those songs were actually produced by Boy Wonder. But Boy Wonder is not clearing any music for PG Lang at this point in time, and that's pretty obvious, right? I mean, Scott Bridgway, one of PG Lang's producers, had previously given beats to Playboi Carti, and Drake had recorded on one of them, and due to his affiliations to PG Lang, Scott had to end up not clearing any of the songs that included Drake.
Carti got a song with Drake. It's fire. I love it. It's not gonna be on there. No, Drake ain't on the album, my nigga. It's not gonna happen.
So it's likely that the same thing goes for Janu and Boy Wonder, right? Any music they have with Baby Keem, it's likely not coming out. It's not getting cleared. And that might mean that Baby Keem had to go back to the drawing board and completely restart the creative process because a large portion of it included this producer who was closely affiliated with, again, Boy Wonder, who's closely affiliated with Drake. It's interesting how this is almost like a full circle moment, right? Like, initially, Baby Keem's career gets a massive boost when Drake puts a new set of eyeballs on him, and at this point, that very same momentum might be slowed down due to Drake and his producers pulling the plug. We obviously can't confirm this, right? But it's an interesting connection. And aside from this, there are a couple other people close to Baby Keem who have alluded to new music potentially coming soon, but this was all months ago. Baby Keem is actually listed as one of the headliners for an upcoming festival in June. So the question ultimately still remains, where is Baby Keem? But ultimately, we do have an answer on one thing. Whether it was COVID-19, whether it was getting left off the Drake song, whether it was not being able to actually collaborate with his cousin Kendrick for many years, whether it was not even having a stage name and just going by his government name for many years, whether it was not forming into his own artistic identity for many years until the point where he actually dropped a mixtape with no features and then went platinum with no features, Baby Keem can teach us all an important lesson of the beauty behind delayed gratification. I mean, it's been almost 4 years that Baby Keem has been radio silent ever since he was poised to be the next runner-up to lead this generation. But if he takes the same steps that he's been taking all throughout his career, outworking the competition and outworking his former self, then he'll be better than ever. The same way he had to delay actually rapping for his voice to develop while he went through puberty. The same way where he had to hold off on sending Kendrick Lamar music because he needed to wait some time for him to actually develop as an artist before he was confident of the records he was sending Kendrick. The same way he had to wait to get that Drake feature, which then turned into getting a Kendrick feature. The same way he had to wait to get his debut album out for the COVID pandemic to subside. The same way he may have to wait for his big moment in the spotlight due to this Drake and Kendrick beef and all of that music with Boy Wonder's team potentially being scrapped on Baby Keem's end. I think there's definitely one thing we can say for sure. The hype has never been bigger for Baby Keem to show and prove. But let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you in the next one.
I study
Rapaholics
for a living.